Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murderer. We are on part 133 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is about the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell story. The Mormon couple, Doomsday couple, that took the lives of their own children and their own spouses. We learned on part 132 that Lori trusted Colby Ryan, one of the only people, with the fact that she planned to get married. And it hasn't even been nearly 2 weeks since Charles has been shot. We also learned that Melanie Boudreau is working on her divorce, as well as Ian, who will be in this story later on. You guys remember Heather Daybell. She's married to Chad Daybell's brother, Matt. She shared a bit of information I want to share with you guys to get you to know Chad just a little bit and how he worked and how his family felt about him, to be honest. And I'll do that a little bit later, but just know that there was a lot of family drama within the Daybell family, especially between Chad and his siblings. It appeared that Chad might have thought that he was just not good enough, and the siblings made him feel a little inferior. But there was constant family drama, a lot of uncomfortable feelings between the siblings, and it was quite sad. During this time, people are noticing that Chad and Tammy, they're very distant, and Tammy just seems incredibly isolated. And the sad part about it is some of the Daybells notice this, but don't really reach out to her and say, "Hey, Tammy, what's going on? Are you okay?" I don't understand that, but they don't. Heather Daybell has said several times that Chad Daybell isn't a very intelligent person. I noticed that Heather Daybell has a lot of problems with several of the Daybell siblings. There's so much judging going on within this family, it's just insane. So to really find truth of what was really going on is kind of difficult because there's a lot of hate going on. And so imagine walking into a room with people that are supposed to be your family members, and all you can do is think about how you're being judged. Then suddenly he meets this woman, Lori Vallow, who he will refer to her as loaded. And Chad really likes the fact that he can use Lori as arm candy. During this time, Chad is having to think about how to dispose of his wife. He's starting to push his kids away a little bit more at this point on. Nothing else matters at this point other than his little dessert, his arm candy, Lori. And the father who once loved his kids, at least appeared so, has begun the process of forgetting that those kids once meant the world to him and that they had a role to play in his future anyhow. And he has no idea of how Lori could change his relationship with those kids and how he will treat those kids. Because you got to think back, what happened to all the kids in her family, especially Charles' sons? She made sure that she created chaos, just tried to destroy their lives anyway. She didn't succeed, but she tried. And so I really felt like, this is my opinion, that she would actually make plans for these kids in the future as well. So Chad might have thought that he was calling his shots at some point, but he married Lori. What's going to happen with his kids? That's the thing. How are they going to be treated? Because as soon as one of them shows any signs of being distant or not following her rules, it's not going to be pretty. In fact, in court, Lori Vallow claimed that Tammy Daybell was her friend. That's hilarious. She's using her husband, manipulating him, planning to kill Tammy. and their friends. Let's talk about Kay Woodcock and the insurance she received from Charles, her brother. So at some point in July, whether it be mid or later in July of 2019, Lori Vallow is finding out that Kay Woodcock is the beneficiary of $1 million. And at some point, Lori reaches out to Kay and writes something along the lines of 5 kids, no money, and his sister gets everything. So Lori is trying to claim, Charles is the father of all these kids. You got his 3 sons. You got JJ and Tylee, possibly even Kobe. And all the money's going to Kay. Now, during this time, Kay is trying to get contact with JJ, but from here on, things become more and more difficult with each passing day. One by one, Lori's friends catch word about Charles being dead. Christina says she's one of those people. She had been traveling back and forth from Canada to the U.S. when she caught word that Charles was dead. She said her friend Nicole had actually run into Lori at the temple. Lori's story to Nicole was Charles was coming to take JJ to school. She got a hold of his phone, found out that he was reaching out to someone about a mental health crisis, and that Charles had made plans to kill her. Christina Atwood said she did ask about funeral services or a memorial, and Lori says that Charles didn't want any of that. So Lori is telling everyone something different, that she's having a memorial, that Kay's having a memorial, that she's taking his cremated remains back to Hawaii. Then she says she's sending them to Louisiana. No one knows what the truth is. Many of us believe that there are a few people who are following Chad and Lori who do know the truth. And we know this because here's their ranking system that Justin Lum shared with us when he first got it. Interestingly, it's not Melanie Boudreau that's first, it's Melanie Gibb at 97%. Now, for Lori to give her that scoring, there's a reason for it. Next is Zelima at 96. Her good brother, Alex, at 94. Thor at 94. Nicole, 86. Melanie Boudreau, 85. Summer, 40. Jason Mao, 31. Serena, spelled down to 18. Janie, 15. Barry, 8. Her own father. And look at Christina Atwood. He's fallen down to 8. And April, not falling in line, is 7. And her brother, Adam, who tried to help Charles get help for his sister who needed it, is now a 0. We all know that these numbers basically say whether or not you'll become a dark entity or a zombie. If you become a zombie, a lot of people believe that means that you are destined to die. So you'll hear Chad and Lori talk about these ranking systems. What are they today? And they'll spit out these numbers. The truth of the matter is, it has nothing to do with dark entities or zombies. It has to do with who's going to get us in trouble, who's not following what we tell them, who is not walking with us. So it's like mafia. They've really taken this to an extreme. They really believe that they have the power to say who lives and who dies. July 20th, Charles' son Steve is texting Lori, asking her if he could get a few things. He says, if you won't answer those questions, can we please have the watches and other stuff he always talked about and had around? It's about an hour later, Lori does respond to Steve, telling him that she would send some of those items to his house. That was the last communication he ever had with Lori. And so here's the text that he exactly wrote. My dad had a collection of watches, very fancy watches. He wore nice watches for years and years, so I thought she was going to send me some of them, Steve says. A package does arrive, and inside, he says he found cheap Timex watches, like the kind you buy at CVS. Anything that was worth money, well, he didn't see it. Charles' son, they believe that Lori most likely sold whatever was worth any money. They dealt with just some horrible roundabout manipulation from Lori. Wouldn't tell the kids if he was having a funeral, where his body would be located. She was just a horrible, horrible person. And what about the investigation with Charles? Well, initially, what we're hearing is the case was actually closed and considered self-defense, and that they reopened the case just a few months before JJ and Tylee are reported missing, which is in November, close to November. So hang in there, guys. Knowing what we know today, what the police were being told, the fact that many people had these serious concerns, and the fact that Kay Woodcock and Larry Woodcock reached out to them and said, look, we have this uneasy feeling, something isn't right. And we're hearing there's a chance that they close the case. Insane. On July 21st, it's around this day that Lori's supposed to get Charles' PC. That's so that she can go through there and get more information on the life insurance and what happened with that. Also on July 21st of 2019, there is a search record or history of, they believe, Lori searching Gerber life insurance policy for the children. So the grow up plan. This is around the same time that Tylee's become Hillary, which means she's dark. And they're talking about JJ's numbers beginning to drop. So you have all these sketchy things that she's doing. Then you have a lot of people telling police, look, the ex-wife of Charles, Cheryl, believes that Charles' death is 100% planned. Why? Because Charles told people, if something happened to me, Lori did it. So at some point around this time, Cheryl says that she and the boys, they don't really hear anything else from Lori or Colby or anyone. And people like Colby Ryan, who supposedly grew up with them, supposed to be a family, they're not hearing anything. Remember, Chad was writing a novel about how he and Lori met, and Lori's just loving that. What I'm about to share with you will bring you closest to the truth of what Lori and Chad's plans were and how they felt about everything that was happening around them. July 21st, 2019, approximately 8:17 p.m. Chad Daybell sends Lori a glimpse of what he's been writing. He said that Chad went by James, that's his second name, and Lori went by Alina. It begins with James and Alina visiting the temple, then returning to the hotel room for additional romance on the couch. They calmed their nerves enough to give each other a blessing. As James placed his hands on her head, he connected with Alina's true eternal self. He knew he was in the presence of an exalted goddess who had returned to Earth to perform a special mission. This mission included being with him, and that they would progress together as translated beings. The full plan wasn't yet completely clear to him, but the immense power radiating from her confirmed his belief that she was among the greater women in the universe. They embraced following the blessings, and the emotions that they felt were a mixture of internal bliss and terrestrial desire. The sexual chemistry was undeniable, but the spiritual unity was a glorious bonus for them both. They had only known each other 3 weeks. So that's about it right there that Chad shares with Lori. Just a glimpse of the novel that he started writing on his and his lover's romance. Now imagine your husband or your boyfriend writing you something like this. You would probably completely shocked and had a lot more to say than what Lori says. She says she loves it. That's it. Then Chad responds back to Lori with a long message of being sealed in the temple. That their spirits and their bodies. Remember, this series and this novel that he's writing about Lori and himself. Remember, in October 26th, he's actually started writing about how Lori and him kind of met at the very beginning and how she was special to him. Now, one of the investigators said that this actually started on 7/14/2019. And several of these little pieces of this series sent to Lori, he admits that he had a good friend named Melanie Gibb who was very helpful. And she was so helpful to him while he spoke at the Mesa event. Melanie Gibb will play like she didn't know Chad, that she didn't have any part of being close to Chad or Lori and Chad's connection, when in reality, she played a huge part. I will throw in more pieces of this novel as we move forward. What it seems to me is Lori knows at this point that she has sunk her claws into Chad and that she has a lot of control over him. And she's going to start pushing those buttons to see just how much control she has here shortly. In an article by Justin Lum, reporter, Kay Woodcock said she had last heard from Lori Vallow July of 2019 regarding Charles' life insurance policy. She said that Lori had sent her a picture of the change of the beneficiary form, and she wrote a note underneath it that went something like 5 kids and no money, and his sister gets everything. So, according to Justin Lum, investigative reporter, he spoke with Charles Vallow's attorney, Taylor Larson, and he told Justin that it's rare to make changes to life insurance beneficiaries way ahead of the divorce being finalized. The attorney also said that Charles did tell his lawyer that he feared for his life and he did not want Lori to know he planned to remove her from the policy. Justin quoted the attorney saying because of the circumstances surrounding it, with him fearing for his life and really stressing to them, there's a credibility there. Charles' lawyer said he then advised him to change it right away. It wasn't long ago that Lori Vallow had told her husband Charles that she didn't want JJ anymore. I don't want you anymore. And that night she left, which was on January 30th of 2019. Charles is quoted as saying, I'm afraid I'm going to be killed, and I know who's going to do it, end quote. Steve Ellsworth was told directly by Charles that if something ever happened to him, he wanted to make sure that he was able to contact someone and tell them that was worthy, so detectives. Charles told him, I'm telling you, Steve, so that if something does happen to me, I want to make sure you let everyone know if something happens. I'm killed, that it is my wife, and it's her brother, Alex Cox. So I know I've shared that several times, but I feel like it's very important. Kay Woodcock will reach out to detectives, and she'll email them with her concerns, and that's where we're going to pick up on 134. I'm so glad I've been able to spend some time here with you guys. I'm going to make sure that you guys know that I appreciate everything and that we're going to start reading some of those comments I've been collecting over time. Your comments. So, hang in there. We're going to get to them. Also, do not forget today to share a missing face on your social media, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And I want to ask kindly, if you can, subscribe, like, and comment. You can also share it. I can use all the help I can get. So thank you so much, guys, for your support. Thanks for being here. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.